Hey guys, there's a good chance if you're watching this video now, you clicked into this link from one of the blogs that I wrote talking about the idea of more being a terrible strategy. When I get into coaching moments with agents or anybody who I'm doing business coaching with, and we get into strategies and more pops up, it kind of makes me cringe a little bit because we can't really do more. I want you to think about the idea of more. If I only have a certain amount of time in my day and I need to do something to help move the needle of my goals, I can't necessarily do more without getting leveraged or doing better. I can do better or I can leverage, but I can't necessarily do more as a strategy. And so the very first step that we have to take is this idea of better or leverage. And so my goal today in this conversation that I want to have with you is about how to get into the mode of better or leverage. And we're going to look at a couple areas. I think there's a lot of great resources out there for you. So I'm only going to highlight some things that you could literally take today, put into application in your world, and see some differences start to happen. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is your calendar. So I think you can go and find lots of information about how to schedule your day. And yet this is the thing that I want to make sure that I'm coming from. If you want to do better or leverage, and you were looking at the idea of your calendar, what I would do is look at what do I want out of the goal? What do I want out of this time that I have in my calendar? And whatever that goal is, whatever that element is that I want out of it, I can truly measure the net value of that element happening in my day based off of my calendar, okay? Let me show you what this means. All day long, I have things that happen to me. Let me move this over here. Sorry if that made some noise. I 100% have things on my calendar that are either going to be a positive movement in the direction of my goal or my need or my desire, and things that are going to be a negative movement, right? And the negative doesn't necessarily mean it's working against you. It just means that the time that you have is being taken by something else that you can't get out of. Like it's a default activity. I got to take the kids to the grocery store or school, whatever. I got to go to the grocery store. There's something that I have to do that's fitting into this. It's not necessarily working against me. It's just that I don't have the time to do anything differently. And so if I'm looking at this, I can start every single day looking at the net value of my day. And if I know the net value of my day, I can take everything that would be in this negative column and consider, would it be possible for me to take that default activity and move it into the positive side? And so let's think about this. If I were somebody in some sort of lead generating business and I knew for a fact that I needed to make X amount of calls every single day, or I needed to do X amount of contacts, whatever it may be, and I look at my positive side and it is just laced with the results that I need, it's just not quite there enough. And I look at the negative side of my day, what's taking away from my ability to do more, right? The more kind of side of things. And if I look at that, I can easily say, well, if I got to go to the grocery store and I've got to do something to be able to purchase groceries, I got to be around the people in the grocery store, then I need to find 5 conversations that can happen while I'm at the grocery store. See, we immediately pull one of those default moments into our positive side of things, and we can have a net value that's positive, moving in the direction of what I want out of things. See, we can change what's happening around us versus waiting till the end of the day and going, oh, I don't know what happened, but I just felt like I did so much and I never really got anything out of it. You see, we can 100% measure the net value of our day every single day and effectively move the needle of our goal. We can make sure that those little moments that can make a big impact are purposeful about creating a net positive in my day. And if you do this at the very beginning of your day, it would make a world of difference for all of you guys. The second thing I'm going to look at is conversion ratios, right? And if we're really going to look at how we can find better or leverage, I need to understand where my conversion ratios are. In my world, more than likely, and when I say my world, I'm talking about all of us, right? In our worlds, more than likely, there is a process towards completion, okay? So I either need to make X amount of calls to get X amount of appointments, to get X amount of, right? I need to go to the gym X amount of days to get X amount of calories burned to be able to do this kind of weight loss program. I need to read this many pages to be able to understand the book, to be able to take the test, right? There's a process being taken. We could literally take every activity that we have that's along that process and look at how much we do in that activity to produce the next result. So if I make 5 phone calls, it turns into 1 appointment. Well, that's a conversion ratio. And so what we need to be able to do is to really dig into the conversion ratio. So as I set a goal, I need to track the activity of that, right? If I set a goal, I need to track the activity of it. And then I need to begin to measure all of the results. So as I'm looking at my activities and I'm measuring my results, it's all popping out a very specific conversion ratio. 1 out of every 5 calls turn into 3 appointments, which turn into 4 contracts, whatever that may be. And then I can isolate each one of those conversion ratios and see which one would have the largest impact on my business. And so if I wanted to close like more deals, right? If I want to get into that more mentality, I don't have to actually have more. I don't need more. What I need is better in my conversion ratios. Do I have a better script? Do I have better practice? Do I have a better activity? Do I have better triggers? Do I have, right? We look and we evaluate the little things so that then our conversion ratios are building our better. And they're building towards our leverage ultimately. Because the idea of leverage is getting into the space to where, what if I could take those phone calls, leverage them out, and now that's being done for me, and I'm just capitalizing on winning on the conversion ratio from appointment to contract, right? It's those little things when we start to look at how do we do better and leverage versus more that make a huge impact in our world. And so the last thing I want to really do is look at the idea of leverage. And here's the thing with leverage. Leverage is about giving up control. And here's what I would do. If I want to understand leverage and get into a leverage conversation, Randy, what do I do to actually get into leveraging my business, to be growing, to get more, right? To get more out of it. You don't actually get more out of it by doing more. You get more out of it by better or leverage. So if I'm going to start leveraging myself, I would do this. Get a big old piece of chart paper and slap it on a wall somewhere. And every time you do something, write it down, right? Every time you do something that is an activity towards your business or moving in the direction of your goal, I want you just to write it down. And every single time you write something down, just watch it and absorb it for a second. And spend 2 weeks doing that, and you will have a chart paper, maybe 2 pieces of chart paper that are just filled with all kinds of activities. And at that point, you can get into an evaluation process. And here's what I would do when I look at the evaluation process, okay? And here's how I would look at it. Sorry if you look at an awkward edit, it's because my video botched on me. And so let me do this again for you guys. So the way I would look at leverage, once I've got my board on the wall and I see, or my chart paper, and I see all the activities and I begin to measure, like, evaluating what's happening. I want to evaluate like this. And so I want to look at the impact, and I want to look at the time/difficulty, okay? So time/difficulty, and I want to look at the impact. What impact would this have in my world? See, it's either going to be a low impact, it's going to be a high impact, right? It's either going to be easy or it's going to be hard. And obviously gauge that by time. Time is either easy or hard as far as like what you're going to be doing in it. Okay, so if this is what's happening in my world, and I'm looking at and measuring this in my, like if I'm evaluating what I'm doing every single day, low impact and easy time, leverage that. If it's a low impact, right, low impact in my business, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time, leverage that. If it's low impact, but it takes up a lot of my time, all right, low impact, takes up a lot of my time, leverage that. Now, if it's a high impact, but takes up a easy time, right, easy amount of time or easy difficulty, if it's an easy task, that's a maybe. There is one maybe category. And then if it's a high impact, but it takes a lot of time, if it's really hard, I'm going to write in the word team, okay? Which I threw you a curveball there, right? So if I'm looking at my world and I've got my all of my elements on the board and I'm understanding how I can evaluate this, if I have anything that's a super low impact and it's really easy or doesn't take a whole lot of time to do, somebody else should be doing that for me, because then I get more time from those things. You'd be surprised at how many little bitty elements take up a big majority of your time as you compound them throughout your day. Now, if I have something that's very low impact and it takes a whole lot of time or it's a very hard thing to do for me, man, that's a huge opportunity for leverage. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you give it to an assistant or something. That just means you leverage it out. Somebody somewhere can do that paid per hour. Okay? That's just reality. And so you've got to really look at these things and just let some of it go. If somebody was able to do it at about 60 to 75% of what you're able of doing it, then that's a win, and get it out of your schedule so that you can really focus on the one thing that you can do to impact your business the most. And when you look at the second thing, what the other box here is, we're moving along. So a high impact, but it's still low difficulty, right? It has a high impact, but it's low difficulty. That's really going to be a maybe box for me, because when I look at that, there may be things that I need or / should touch just because of the vision or because of my missions, because of my values. There's something there that's probably living in that box that I need to consider. Okay? There's some things in that box that I just need to give up. Technology is a big piece of my world. I absolutely love it. That's one of the first things that I gave away, even though I loved it, and it's super low impact for me, right? I mean, sorry, it's a high impact for me, but super low difficulty. It takes up a lot of time from time to time. It's just not there in that space where I need to be doing it, and I gave it away. And so I'm not doing as much as that anymore. And it's given me a space to be able to grow my world, okay? And it'll do the same thing for you. There's going to be moments where you got to give away certain things that it's just easy, may have a high impact, and you feel like you have to do that. But if you've set up the processes and the systems correctly, then you don't, and you can give that away. And then team, and I know that's going to throw you off, but if you think about it, if it has a really high impact and it's really difficult, or it's got a lot of time invested in it, you really need to consider what that looks like to be able to put into a team project box, so that then it either is living inside of a team. If you don't have a team, you more than likely have people around you. So this is kind of a version of a leveraged box, right? To give things away. But it's a little bit different in the sense that there's a holistic approach to this. A lot of things that I leverage, I'm leveraging off tasks, activities, things that are almost singular in function. If I have something that's a high impact and it's really hard or takes a lot of time, usually a majority of those elements are because they're intertwining a lot more than just, can I get this done today? Even if it took me 8 hours, I get this one thing done, it's done. If it's usually having a high impact and it's really hard or it's got taken up a lot of time, it usually is something you need to consider what it would look like living in a team. Now, if it doesn't live in a team, I will tell you that's the caveat to that, is that it probably is something in your world, probably is something that you need to learn, that you need to grow, that you need to be skilled at. So when I look at my version, my opinion of this story, and I'm going to go into digging in what it looks like to be able to build my world in leverage, I'm going to measure things by this. I'm going to evaluate everything that's on my chart paper by these elements. And so that's the main thing that I'm looking at. So if I really wanted to dig into the how-to of my world, I'm doing these 3 things. I'm looking at my calendar and measuring the net value of my day. I'm looking at my conversion ratios and seeing which one will have the highest impact to affect my goal. And then lastly, I'm going to look at leveraging, and I'm going to understand what activities I absolutely must do. And I'm going to begin to give away all of the things that I don't have to, right? Who can I pay $10 an hour to do something for me? What can you do to start giving things away? And again, I just look at it from the standpoint of, if somebody's going to do it at 60 or 75% of what I would do it, that's always going to be a win. I hope this helps you. I hope it begins to align some things for you. And if you have any questions, man, you're always welcome to reach out to me, randyolive@kw.com, or you can make a comment on his. I pay attention to these videos all the time. So go be amazing. And again, I hope this helps you out.